Welcome to our module of dynamic stretches. The aim here is to really get some increase in range of motion through the key joints of the hip, the knee and the ankle without losing too much of what we call your elastic response through the muscle fibres. So Mark and Rochelle will hold these stretches for a maximum of maybe 1 to 2 seconds and be moving through a range consistently. We don't want to get stuck into a model where we're holding stretches for too long, as we'll lose the spring in the muscles and therefore compromise the performance of our run session. These would typically be done after a jog warm-up and before our running drills. Our first one, and probably the most important one, is what we call the walking lunge, and the target muscle group is your hip flexors. So Mark and Rochelle will take a big lunge forward. They'll have their hands up nice and tall and be getting a nice stretch through the front of their hip. After a few steps, they'll start to lean across to the side that their knee is forward. This just increases the stretch to the hip flexor and gets the abdominals a little bit of a stretch as well. The next drill is for a muscle group we call the adductors, often called the groin on the inside of the thigh. Mark and Rochelle, we're going to do a little bit of a side shuffle and then push the hips from side to side to get a nice stretch on the inside of the adductors. Our next stretch is for the quads. A really simple one where Mark and Rochelle are going to grab their ankles and tuck them up nice and close underneath their butt and get a good stretch on the front of the thigh. Our next stretch is for the glute muscle on the back of the hip. A nice simple one where Mark and Rochelle are going to grab their knees and they're going to tuck them in nice and tall into their chest. Now, after a few steps, they're going to get up onto their toes just to increase the stretch. Our next one is called the walking prayer. This is a really good muscle on the side of our hip called the piriformis, and we're going to get our ankles to be resting on the opposite knee and then sitting down behind our body as low as we can get, and we'll get a nice stretch on the side of the hip. Now for our next muscle group, the hamstring, we've got 2 stretches. The first one is called the scoop, and this one is just all about reaching down towards our heel with a nice straight back and scooping from our heel up towards our toe and getting a nice good range through the back of the thigh. Mark and Rochelle have their toes pointed up nice and tall and are going to lean down behind their heel and scoop up towards the toes. And our second one for the hamstring muscle group is what we call the ninja. So this involves a little bit more coordination and a little bit more range. So this is recommended for our advanced runners. What we'll see Mark and Rochelle do is reach across with their opposite arm and meet their foot in front of their body, and we'll get a nice good stretch to the top of the hamstring. And our last one is for the calf muscle group. This one we call the caterpillar, simply because we start on all fours on our hands and our feet and walk in with our feet towards our hands as close as we can get, and then walking out on the hands. The key here is the feet stay together and the knees stay straight. Simply walk in as far as you can get until you feel a stretch on the back of your legs, and then walking out on the hands. So there's our dynamic stretches. We recommend you perform them in the order of the hip down to the ankle to get the most from your stretch. And we would recommend doing about 5 to 6 stretches on each side to really improve your mobility for the upcoming run session.